In this episode, we're going to take a look at Microsoft 365 Business Premium. We're going to talk about its admin features, security, compliance, and ask the ultimate question, is it worth it? Stay tuned and you'll find out. Greetings my fellow learners, welcome to the channel. Andy Malone, Microsoft MVP, as well as a Microsoft certified trainer. How are you today? I hope everybody is well and that you're enjoying the content on my channel. Remember, if you are, then please like and subscribe. And as always, if you have not subscribed, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and you won't miss out on the good stuff in the future. In previous episodes, my demo environment has typically been E5 and Enterprise Mobility and Security. And I've had a few requests, Andy, could you take a look at things like the business editions, the smaller editions for companies and so on. So what I thought I would do in this episode is really take a look at the Business Premium edition. Now, Business Premium has a lot of advantages over the likes of Business Standard. Now, the key thing to remember here is that you can have up to a maximum of 300 users. And that is fantastic for, let's say, the vast majority of us out there. Of course, if you're an enterprise customer and you don't want a limit on numbers, then anything in the E plans, the enterprise plans, are absolutely fine for you. Now, although Business Standard gives you a lot of really cool features, Business Premium really goes that one step further. We have enhanced security, enhanced compliance, and as I've discovered, there's a few surprises in there as well. Now, just to remind you, if you've got any comments about this or any of my other sessions, get them down below. And of course, I love to answer your questions. So without any further ado, I think it's about time we dived in and had a look at Business Premium and asked the ultimate question, is it worth the extra cash that you have to pay? Let's take a look. So let's take a look at Microsoft 365 Business Premium, and I'm going to come in here to the Admin Center. And here in the Admin Center, first thing you'll notice is it's slightly different to the Enterprise version. So I really like this actually. The fact that you can see everything in a single pane of glass is really great. So you can communicate with your users. You can obviously communicate in Microsoft Teams. You can view your subscriptions. And of course, now we have that all important link to Microsoft Learn. In addition, you've got the classic search feature here. So if you want to search through any of the content, for example, your users, you have direct access to administer the users from here. Actually, I'm thinking, perhaps the Enterprise Edition could learn a few things from here. Up here, you can add users really quickly, as well as resetting that all-important password. And I absolutely love the fact that you can flick over into dark mode. So if you're, a little less intense on the eyes, perhaps, I actually do like dark mode. So again, that's nice to see that feature there as well. Now, the other thing that we've also got here, you can install Microsoft Office, of course, for the admins here. You've got the Cloud Shell. So if you like using things in PowerShell, then this is up here. And of course, this being a dashboard, everything's customizable. So you can go up here and you can completely customize the whole thing. Now, of course, if I click the side menu, it brings me back to the standard Microsoft 365 menu, and you'll be amazed at actually what's in here. So if I go into users and into active users here, you can see it's pretty much identical to the standard Microsoft 365. We still have the legacy multi-factor authentication features, but again, there are other places that you can manage that. Now, as I mentioned, in terms of surprises, a couple of things that I found quite interesting. The fact that I can come down into Azure Active Directory. And here in Azure Active Directory, you'll notice that we're actually on a premium edition. So this is a P1 edition of Azure AD, which is really nice because this gives you access to some really kind of cool security features as well, and I'll talk about those in a moment. Now, things that we do have, of course, you've got standard users. I can come into groups. You can create different types of groups, of course. So in terms of, you've got security groups as well as Microsoft 365 groups, of course. And of course, you can also have not just assigned, but you can also go with dynamic user and dynamic device security groups, which is particularly useful if you're rolling things out in, let's say, Intune, yes? Now, just coming back to this, when we talk about some of the security features, of course, one of the things that you'll notice is we can still deploy applications. So you can have enterprise applications, so cloud applications here that you can push out to your users. So your users, any apps that you push out in Azure will of course appear in their apps list here, and of course you can control those applications. For example, if I go into a demo environment here, you can see that you can control them by users and groups here. You can even set up things like single sign-on for your users there as well. So what else have we got in here? Well, you've got identity governance, and if you've not seen my demos on identity governance, then definitely go ahead and check those out because they're really quite interesting. Now, although the menus appear complete, there are some things that you will still need an extended license for. So, for example, identity governance here, if I click into this, this is something that's not included with the current plan, and you would need either to get a free trial here or a P2 license there. So, but you do get an awful lot for your money. Now, if I just scroll back, so if I go back to my Contoso environment here, and if I scroll down, here you'll see that we have got a number of really useful features. For example, in security, you can manage things like different authentication methods, things like password protection. You can push out, for example, the Microsoft Authenticator app, FIDO keys. So if you want to take advantage of those, that passwordless authentication. And as I discussed on my previous episode of this series, you also have the ability to push out a temporary access pass here as well. Now, one really nice advantage that you have over Business Standard is that I can scroll down here and, for example, I can come into Mobility, MDM, and Mobile Application Management. And here, of course, the big seller is that we have Microsoft Intune here, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, if I flip over here and come into, for example, into the user portion here, the one thing that you'll notice that we don't have in the enterprise environment, which I'm really surprised about, is the fact that you can view all your active devices here. Now, as a small business, of course, you may want to push out Windows 10 and Windows 11 licenses, which of course are included as part of this subscription. And you can take advantage of tools like Autopilot, which will auto-configure those devices. So you basically get a device straight from the manufacturer. You put in a list of device IDs or serial numbers, and you can then create a policy and a profile and push that out to that device. That's absolutely fantastic. And I'm going to do a video on this in the not too distant future. So in here as well, you can also see and manage all your regular devices here. And these devices can either be fully managed, i.e. corporate devices, or they can BYOD, bring your own device. So if you've got, these are basically Azure AD registered devices here. Now, heading back here, if I go back into the portal, I did mention mobile device management, and one of the big selling points of Business Premium is the fact that you get Endpoint Manager. Now, Endpoint Manager, as many of you know, is essentially a combination of two products. So here we have devices and apps. This is Microsoft Intune. So this allows me to not only manage Windows devices, but also things like iOS and iPad, Mac OS, Android, and so on. You can enroll your devices here, including things like Windows Hello for business. So for biometric enrollment and so on, this is absolutely fantastic. If you've got Apple devices in your environment or Android devices, then you can get hold of an MDM push certificate. So basically you can just request this. Once you've agreed to that Apple program, this is called the DEP, the Deployment Enrollment Program, and you can then deploy profiles automatically to mobile devices such as iPhones and iPads and so on. Absolutely awesome that we have this feature here. Now, this is something that you don't get with the Business Standard Edition. So if you've got any kind of mobility and you want to manage those multiple types of devices, then this absolutely rocks. Other things that we've got here, the other big seller, of course, is the fact that we have got Microsoft Teams. And you have got a slightly enhanced version of Microsoft Teams. So you can do live meeting, live events, and also you can manage multiple devices as well. You can manage Teams devices. Things like Surface hubs and so on. Now, although typically you would need an E5, this doesn't give you absolutely everything, but seriously, it really does give you an awful lot for your money there. All right. My other favorite feature, again, this is one up on Business Standard, is the fact that I can come into SharePoint here. And in SharePoint, if I go into, for example, let's say settings. So as well as all the standard SharePoint features, one of my favorite things that you can do is OneDrive. So of course you've got OneDrive for Business, and this is your personal storage, your personal users storage here. Now typically users, as you can see, get up to 1 terabyte of storage, which to be honest is absolutely fine. But check it out. Look, you can now get up to 5 terabytes of storage absolutely free. Okay, so you can upgrade all of your users' personal storage to 5 terabytes. In addition, of course, you also get up to 25 terabytes of storage per site that you create. So again, if you're working with very large websites, very large programs, again, this would be absolutely fantastic. So this is corporate, so things like SharePoint document libraries, which of course you create within a Microsoft Team environment. You have a shared storage environment. This can be up to 25 terabytes, whereas personal storage, things like OneDrive for Business, fantastic, up to 5 terabytes of storage per user. So really, really nice feature there. Now, in addition to that, in terms of admins, not only can you manage devices, but you can also manage things like teams and groups as well. And of course, you also have access to some nice Azure AD features, such as administrative units. And if you've not seen that demo that I did previously, then please check out my videos on YouTube. And I'll maybe put some links, some useful links within this video. All right, so there you have it, just some of the cool admin features in Microsoft 365 Business Premium. So one of the major differences between Business Standard and Business Premium is here. This is the security or Microsoft 365 Defender. And I have to be honest, some of the features here are an absolute must. Now, every customer gets EOP, and EOP means Exchange Online Protection. So here in the threat policies section here, every customer will get anti-spam, anti-phishing, and anti-malware. The couple of things that Defender brings is safe attachments. And if you've never looked at safe links or safe attachments, then I'll put a link in to the video below, and this will give you an idea of exactly how to set them up. These are an absolute must for any business. So this protects you from exposure to potential malicious attachments. Absolutely critical. Likewise, this prevents you from, or prevents your users from clicking on known or malicious links that are out there. Microsoft keep a great catalog of these links, and essentially if anything comes through that's even remotely suspicious, it will either go off and scan the link, or it will provide you with a warning not to click onto it. Now, so that's just a couple of things there, and that's in threat policies. The other major selling point, I would say personally for me, is the fact that you get endpoint protection, and endpoint protection is typically only available with EMS, Enterprise Mobility and Security. You can purchase it as a standalone solution, but again, this is an absolutely fantastic solution. So it provides you with this dashboard of overall threats within your organization. It looks at your users' devices. So I mentioned the fact that you can deploy devices with Intune. You've got that technology here. This looks at it from the security perspective. What are your weaknesses and so on, and how can I configure those devices? And you're probably thinking, well, how come there's no devices here, Andy? It's because I haven't deployed any yet. But how do you do it? Seriously, it's super simple. I simply just scroll down here, come into settings, and if I click on endpoints here, scroll right down and check it out. Here we have onboarding, and you can onboard to any of these OSs. So anything from Windows 10 and 11, which of course is the default, to things like Mac OS, Linux, Android, iOS, and so on. Now, typically there is a script. It will generate a script. You can download the package or the agent, deploy that agent to your users, and you can deploy it, of course, through Intune, of course. And you can also run a detection test to make sure that the agent is actually running. How does it work? There is a full tutorial here. Definitely go and check it out. It's absolutely fantastic. So once that agent is alive, once it's kind of woken up, of course, then I can come back into endpoint and it will give me full inventories, remediation suggestions, and so on. Absolutely awesome. Now, on the subject of awesome, I love this. Microsoft Learn are getting much more integrated into Microsoft products. So here this is where you can come in, tutorials, if there's an area that you're not sure about, that you feel that you need a little bit more learning, then again, this talks about what are the latest threats and things like that. The other thing that we also have as well in terms of that, tutorials, you've also got the Learning Hub, and these are all your video tutorials as well. So if you want to know about 365 Defender, if you want to know about threat protection and things like that, then this is absolutely the place to come. Now, some of the features, as with Azure Active Directory, sometimes you'll come in here and, for example, you'll click onto features and they may not be available like this. But you do have the option to obviously take a trial. Microsoft want you to spend a little bit of money, of course. Other things that we do get here, you've got the latest threats, of course, the full threat analytics. This gives you an update on what are the current threats out there. Are there any threats affecting me? I've also got tools like Secure Score, so you can go in and you can see your score, and you can see that there are suggestions. So you can go into those recommended actions in order to improve your secure score there. So there you have it. Just some of the benefits that Microsoft 365 Defender brings in Microsoft 365 Business Premium. Up next, let's take a look at compliance. So when it comes to compliance in Microsoft 365, Microsoft, I think, have done a really good job in giving you exactly the kind of things that you are going to use. For example, here we have Compliance Manager. Now, just because you're a small organization, it doesn't mean that you have to not be compliant. So whether you're in aviation, whether you're in building, finance, healthcare, and so on, there are still things here that you will find useful. Now, just like Secure Score, we also get a compliance score as well. And so if you've got a compliance person, privacy officer within your organization, he's going to find this really useful because it makes a number of recommendations and improvement actions, and you can then carry them on up. Now, as well as this, you also get a number of assessment templates. You get a number of assessments, the basic ones that you can use, and this one here is an example. But if you want, you can also purchase additional templates as well. And these may differ from country to country, of course. So you get a number of kind of basic ones which are included. But if you want to purchase some premium ones, there is a trial subscription that you can use here. Now, in addition, you've also got data classifications. So data classification, of course, is labeling and classification. Again, I've done demos on all of these tools previously. If you've not seen those, I'll put some links in here and you can go off and look at those videos in more detail. Again, some of the features, however, this is kind of a helicopter overview of things like labeling and classification and content explorer and things like retention policies. So this is a really useful tool for that. One thing that I've noticed that's really starting to come into Microsoft 365 now is this concept of connectors. And obviously you can now connect Microsoft 365 to literally hundreds of different data sources, whether they be on-premises, HR connectors, of course, which is definitely something that's starting to integrate with Azure Active Directory, but also things like LinkedIn, healthcare, various applications and so on. So rather than having multiple different tools, this is going to be a really nice way you can keep all your data kind of tied in with one place. So data connectors, definitely something to look out for in the future. Now, in addition, we also have a number of policies which in turn map to a number of tools here. Just one thing to mention, if you are a global admin, compliance is definitely one set of roles, so admin roles, where you may need to grant additional permissions, because essentially with these admin roles, these are quite sensitive admin roles. So especially things like compliance, e-discovery, enterprise search, insider risk investigations. This is, you're going to need to go beyond that global admin. But bearing in mind, when you use these, you need to use them with great responsibility. And of course, everything is audited as well. So as well as the usual reports and things like that, again, you've got access to a number of trials there as well. You've also got just things that point out of interest, things like app governance, just like the security portal. This is one tool where you can see you do need to subscribe a little bit more. You've got auditing, content search. I'm really glad to see this in. This is quite useful if you're a sales manager, let's say, and you want the ability to search through every user's mailbox or every user's piece of data. You're looking for that key piece of information. So content search, again, extremely powerful. So again, you need to use this with great responsibility because it does allow you to view the user's data. In addition, you've also got things like communications compliance. Unfortunately, you need a separate license for that. Something that every business should be using. This is data loss prevention, or as I like to call it, data leakage prevention. So you can create policies here, and these policies use a standard set of templates, and they can either be financial, medical, privacy, and so on. And it essentially protects your data from leaking outside the organization. And you can either enforce this or you can just pop up a reminder saying, that's not really a good idea sending that kind of data out. So I like to refer to this as data leakage prevention, but data loss prevention, extremely powerful set of features. Again, I've done sessions on this in the past, and I'll link to these in my description later. E-discovery. So again, e-discovery is used for in both internal investigation and also for corporate investigation, criminal proceedings, and so on. If you suspect that somebody's up to no good within your organization and you're looking to gather evidence, then this is a very, very powerful set of tools. In addition to this, you've got things like data lifecycle management, and data lifecycle management looks at retention. So retention labels and retention policies. So if you have to retain data for a specific amount of time, for example, tax records have to be retained for 7 years in many countries. Again, you can create labels, and these can be applied to content, specific types of content, and so on. Again, you've got the Exchange legacy there. That just goes into the old version of Exchange. But to be honest, Microsoft 365 covers all the products. So Exchange, SharePoint, Teams, and so on. Information protection is labeling and classification. So for confidentiality. So you can create a label here saying, top secret or confidential, publish it to a label policy to a sales team or something, and the users can then label their sensitive information. The one thing that you don't get with Business Premium is auto labeling. Okay, but auto labeling essentially is just data loss prevention policies. That's essentially what it is. It basically combines these two technologies together. One thing that you do get, however, is things like information barriers. So information barriers allows you to create a couple of segments. So for example, finance and retail, and you don't want these two to be able to talk to each other, for example, so you can create an information barrier policy between them. So that's powerful. Insider risk management and communications compliance unfortunately require a separate license here. But records management, again, very similar to retention policies. This is particularly useful here. So again, this is more compliance-based policies. So meet certain regulations, you need to perform certain actions in order to retain your data. Again, I did a session on this recently. I'll include the link below. Again, privacy management is not included. This is a separate license, and actually this is a separate license, irrelevant of the plans that you've got, by the way. So that's it. That's basically what you get with compliance management. Now, compliance, I love this set of tools. So again, this for me, this is one of the big selling points of 365 Business Premium. The fact that you've got data loss prevention, you've got retention policies, you've got compliance tools. So again, this is going to really enforce your privacy and compliance requirements for your organization. So I suppose the big question is, should I go out and buy it? Is it worth upgrading from business standard to business premium? For me, the answer is yes. I would definitely say you get so much more for your money, especially if you're looking for security and compliance. You get the licenses, of course, for Windows 11, and you also get Endpoint Manager, Intune. You can manage the devices. And you also get enhanced features in Microsoft Teams. You can add on voice and technologies like that. So for me, I think it's a no-brainer. All right. I really hope that you enjoyed the session and that you found it useful. Of course, any of the deep dive links that I talked about, I'll include in the description to my session. So please go ahead and look at those on security, compliance, and so on. All right. If you've got questions about this or any of my other sessions, then please do get those down below. And if you've enjoyed the session, bump that like button. It really does make a difference to my channel. Now, if you've not subscribed, of course, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, and you won't miss out on the good stuff in the future. And that's it for this time. Thank you so much for joining me, especially if this is your first visit. I really do appreciate it. All right, I'm Andy Malone. You have a great day. See you next time. Hey, thanks so much for dropping by today. Here's a couple of videos that you may enjoy, and while you're here, go ahead, click on the subscribe button and you won't miss out.